Hey guys, Tara here from Recovering Book Hoarder, bringing you my July 2020 wrap-up. You might notice that I have on different clothes than I did in the picture of me holding all my books, and that is because I attempted to do something new with my wrap-up and taped it last night, and it was a disaster. So trying again today, and just going with the normal wrap-up kind of thing. So I'm going to go in order of how I read my books. I read a total of 12 books this month. I had all across the board. I had 5 stars, I had DNFs, I had 1 star, 2 star, you name it. So we are going to start with The Dinner List by Rebecca Searle. And this was, take the concept of who are the 5 people, living or dead, that you would like to have dinner with. And this girl, Sabrina Nielsen, it's her 30th birthday, and when she arrives to meet her best friend for their annual birthday dinner, they always get together for their birthday, turns out that the people that she had on her list are all there waiting for her. So she has her best friend, Audrey Hepburn, an old college professor, her dad who had passed away and they were estranged from each other, and her ex-boyfriend. Ex-fiance actually. And it is told from dual timelines that eventually converged, and there is a surprise element here, I felt, regarding the ending that I kind of suspected, but didn't see coming exactly. And it was a 3-star read for me, and the reason for that, it's a good story. But there was one character in here that I felt was just like thrown in to make it 5 people instead of just 4. And that would be the college professor. I really felt like he was just kind of a fluff character. There were some problematic issues with the writing style in here that I just had a hard time getting past. And yeah, I mean, it was good. It was fine. 3 stars. Then we had The Broken Girls by Simone St. James, and this book is so good. I now want to read everything that Simone St. James has written. And it's really funny because I had initially tried to read this one a while back, and I had a really hard time getting into it. So went into it with an open mind, but knowing that I didn't like it all that much the last time I tried to read it, and it blew me away. It's super creepy. Again, dual timelines. It starts out in 1950, and you're flipping between 1950 and then current time. And essentially it is a girls' boarding school for problematic girls back in the 50s. And a lot of things happen here. It's a ghost story. There's some World War II stuff in here, and oh gosh, I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to read more from Simone St. James. 5 stars. I'm not sure if I said that. 5 stars. Okay, then I read Heaven by Randy Alcorn, and it does talk about heaven as like we normally think about heaven. What, we die, we go to heaven, and what does that look like? But he takes a larger look at what is the new heaven on the new earth going to look like, which will form after Jesus's millennial reign, after like post-apocalypse and all of that. The beginning half of this book was a little bit more dry. It was okay. Wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what I was looking for or what I had expected. However, the last half of the book is exactly what I had been looking for and expecting. It made me so homesick for Eden and heaven and just being with God and Jesus. And yeah, because the beginning half of the book was a 4-star as opposed to a 5-star, but really, really good. Great descriptors. Almost takes heaven and turns it on his head with some ideas that people have. People often want to make heaven like a really sterile place that's going to be just filled with singing and kind of boring, and no, that is not the heaven that scripture supports, and that is not the heaven that he describes in this book. So very good. I do recommend it. Okay, then I read an audiobook, and that was The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. Unfortunately, I ended up DNFing this about 3/4 of the way through. Essentially, it is, in the very beginning, the main character it's her wedding day, and she ends up being left at the altar after the groom had been out with his brother, who was his best man, talking. It made him realize that he did not want to marry her. And so the rest of the book is about the main character and the brother best man reconnecting, and then a hate to love story. It was predictable, but that wasn't even why I stopped listening to it. I would have continued listening to it had it not been for the male narrator. The male narrator had the most irritating voice. The only time I was okay with it was whenever he was narrating the brother/best man's voice, and then all the other male characters he did were just, it was one of those that like got underneath your skin. Couldn't stand it. It would have been much, much better if they had just had the female narrator narrate the entire book, and then I think I would have actually finished it. I just eventually could not take it anymore though, so I did DNF that after about 3/4 of the way through. Then we read 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult, and this is a school shooting told from multiple vantage points, dual timeline. You start clear back to whenever the shooter was born, actually a little bit before that, whenever his mom was pregnant with him, and it really looks at all the lives that are touched by the shooter, including the shooter's life, including the victims, including the family of the shooter, who, in this case, they were completely innocent. Like, there was nothing that they had done wrong in raising him. Like a lot of parents, they struggled with, do we give him his privacy? How much is too much? That kind of thing. This is so, so good. Jodi Picoult is such a great author. And the character development is absolutely wonderful. I cannot recommend Jodi enough. And this is just another example of her absolutely wonderful, amazing writing. 5 stars. Then I read Esther by Charles Swindoll, and this is a commentary on the book of Esther. It was kind of disappointing. It wasn't anything I didn't know. He didn't really bring anything new to the table as far as the book of Esther. I prefer the Esther Bible study that Beth Moore did to this book. It was okay. I gave it 2 stars. It's fine. Right, then I did a reread. This is For the Roses by Julie Garwood. My copy is pretty much falling apart at this point. Look, my poor copy. My corners, everything. This is on my list of books I need to repurchase because I love it so much. And the first time I read this, I think it was about 15 years ago. Julie Garwood is the author that got me into historical romances. I especially love her ones that take place in Scotland. This is not one of them. So this is a book about 4 street urchins in the 1870s, late 1800s, that are in New York City, and one night they're in their alley sleeping. They always have somebody on deck to kind of check to make sure everything's okay, and one of them witnesses a man give a woman a basket in an envelope, and after the man leaves, the woman throws the basket away into a pile full of garbage in the alley, and as it turns out, the basket had a baby in it, who they end up naming Mary Rose. So these 4 street urchins end up forming a family so that they can raise Mary Rose to the best of their ability. They move from New York, they travel out to the Montana Territory, establish a place for themselves, and it's just such a good book. A stranger arrives and flips their whole lives onto its head. It's funny, it makes you cry. There's all these characters, I love the characters so much. The scenery is just wonderful. I love this. It is still a 5-star read for me, even after all these years, which does not always happen. So this has actually led me to wanting to reread all of Julie Garwood's historical romances, so created a bullet journal spread for that, and that is now my plan. Then I read Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis, and this was my Owl Crate, in the Owl Crate for June. The description that they had given of this book is actually why I resubscribed to Owl Crate, and it is just so good. So it is, the author describes it as Moulin Rouge meets the Phantom of the Opera meets the Night Circus, and it absolutely does all those three things. And those are, I love all of them, and this is just really, really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was so close to being 5 stars, but I did end up, it was a 4-star read. The characters are very good. The setting's great. It's a super atmospheric book. I could absolutely picture everything that was happening so clearly in my head. Magic, fantasy, just really, really good. I do highly recommend this one. It is also the first in the series. Can't remember off the top of my head what the name of that series is, so I will put that on the screen here. But yeah, excellent, excellent Owl Crate choice. Then I read BrokenHallelujahs. This is by Christian Sharon. Why Popular Music Matters to Those Seeking God. And his purpose in this book was to explain why, as Christians living in the world, we should not be ignoring secular music or secular art, because oftentimes, even though something's not categorized as Christian, there is something in there that makes it spiritual or has a Christian bent, and that we really should not be as judgmental, which I agree with. And I read this hoping to have good arguments to present to other people and things like that. It did not hold up. This reads as 7 doctoral theses, and it's so dry. It was really dry. It was so boring. There was a way that this could have been done where it could have been really, really interesting. It could have also been entertaining. Yeah, it did not deliver. This was a 1 star. But then I had All the Ever Afters by Danielle Teller. I ended up realizing I wasn't going to get to this, and I do have a rule for myself where if it's on my TBR for that month, my true TBR, and it's not something I had planned on it carrying over several times, or I had started halfway through the month, it wasn't on my TBR, then I have to unhaul it. And so I am unhauling this. I did read like 3 or 4 chapters. I did not love that. I kind of thought this is the untold story of Cinderella's stepmother that I was not interested in. It was super boring. I did scan a little bit more just to see if I thought like it was going to get better, and I don't know. This was just really not for me. So I did DNF this one, and I am unhauling it. All right, then I finished a audiobook, Watching You by Lisa Joel. And it is essentially the story of a head teacher who had kind of recently moved into an area, along with this other girl who recently moved into the area with her brother and her sister-in-law. And the head teacher seems to have a lot of secrets in his past that make him seem like maybe he's not the best guy. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to spoil this for anybody. I did give it 4 stars. I was originally going to give it 3 stars, but I have to tell you, the last part of the book, like the very, very end of the book, was done so well, and was kind of a surprise. I didn't totally see it coming, and it hit it 4 stars for me. So the ending takes it from a 3 to a 4 star. Yeah, it was good. Good narrator. Again, dual timelines that converge, and yeah, I would recommend it. It was good. All right, the last book of the month is by and far the best book, and this is going to be on my top of 2020, and that is Stamped from the Beginning The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America by Ibram X. Kendi. And I have to tell you, this does exactly what it sets out to do. It truly is the definitive history of racism in America. I mean, we start back, let's say like 1400s, something like that. We start a very, very long time ago, before America was actually its own country. We're going back to Puritan times. And he tells what I feel is truly an unbiased, so well researched history of racism in America. And if you, as a person, believe that America is free of racism in the year 2020, I dare you to read this book and then come back to me and tell me the same thing. It is just absolutely fabulous. And the epilogue, I was really, really happy, because in the epilogue, he gives his summation, and he gives his practical ideas on this is how racism can end in the United States. And it is just such an important book. I have a few books that I feel should be required reading, which I think I may do a Vlogmas video on in the future, but this is on there. This should be required reading in the United States for every kid that's in high school. If not high school, then for college, preferably high school, because not everybody goes to college. It has all the details that we're not told, and it's just excellent. I mean, I did annotate. You can see my things here. And so, like, pink was statistics, orange was quotes, yellow was wow/WTF, and blue was history. So I'm going to read you my favorite quote from in here. Okay, I just think this is wonderful, and this is from the epilogue. Uplift suasion, which is he gets into the theory of uplift suasion. There's a lot of information about that on here. I'm not going to get into it. All right, uplift suasion as a strategy for racial progress has failed. Black individuals must dispose of it as a strategy and stop worrying about what other people may think about the way they act, the way they speak, the way they look, the way they dress, the way they are portrayed in the media, and the way they think and love and laugh. Individual blacks are not race representatives. They are not responsible for those Americans who hold racist ideas. Black people need to be their imperfect selves around white people, around each other, around all people. Black is beautiful and ugly, intelligent and unintelligent, law-abiding and law-breaking, industrious and lazy. And it is those imperfections that make Black people human, make Black people equal to all other imperfectly human groups. I just think that's so beautifully written, and I cannot recommend this enough. Please, please, please go buy this. I don't care what your race is, I don't care how old you are, I don't care what gender you are, I don't care what, I mean, I gotta say too, because he also talks a lot in here about gender issues and about LGBTQ plus issues, and racism is the main theme, but he talks about how for all of those other issues to come to a conclusion where we can all live together, racism has to be solved. Yeah, it's so good. Please read it. Please, please, please read it. I want to read more by him. I have to say too, there were so many new books and authors that I was introduced to in here, going like way, way back, current and like super, super old, that I have now added to my TBR, and yeah, so good. Please buy it. So yeah, that was my July. I was really happy with July. I think, even though I didn't read as many books, like 4 of these were over 500 pages. And yeah, so I still read a lot, and the quality overall was very good. So yeah, okay. What did you read in July? Have you read any of these books? I would love to interact with you down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. All right, bye.